I have a door to my practice room and I shut the door and I push really hard on the door. And I say like, look, I'm working really hard here. But guess what? The door's not opening. And it's a silly example, but if I just turn the handle and push, the door will open.
Will James is the principal percussionist of the St. Louis Symphony, and when he was practicing for that audition, he was in the New World Symphony, same place I was when I was practicing for my job. And when you're playing in the New World Symphony, you are super busy. It's a full-time orchestra schedule, and I remember there would be weeks at New World where we would have a full week of orchestra plus a percussion ensemble concert. So it would be something like, if a normal orchestra, you have like 7 or 8 or sometimes 9 services at the very most. We would have 13 or 14 services. When you have limited time, you realize you have to find ways to practice smarter. The auditions are not won by people who just practice the most. If you just lock yourself in a practice room and practice the most, that doesn't promise anything. The people who end up doing well in these auditions are people who do the right things during their practice. So if you find the greatest, most effective things to do in the practice room and you practice the most, that's going to put you in a great position. Will James, he was in New York with the St. Louis Symphony. I took him out to a bar and we drank Diet Cokes because we were both playing that night. And I asked him about how to practice excerpts so that you'll do well in auditions. What a dapper gentleman.
Oh, man.
How are you? Great to see you. Will James.
Rob.
Welcome to New York.
Good to see you. Glad to be in New York.
We are in a bar right now in Rockefeller Center. The ice rink is actually right over there.
Diet Coke and water because we both have to work tonight.
Yes.
So I'm actually sort of doing your job tonight. I'm playing an opera tonight.
But you have to sit on stage
That's
for
true.
3 hours.
I can't leave.
Part of the beauty of opera is that you get to leave
Yes,
and write blogs. That's what Verdi intended. You're recording a new piece, but you've never played it before. What is your process to build up that excerpt from scratch, like from step one?
Is it a technically difficult part? Is it sort of a musically difficult part? Basically, I want to attack what is hard first because that's probably going to take the longest.
So your first step is to bring it into the practice room with the instrument.
But in the Escapades example, like, it's just technically hard to execute. I knew that I needed to spend a lot of time just learning the notes. As I go through that, I can also start examining, is this a part where I'm in unison with the saxophone that's also playing, or is this like more of a solo part? What's my role in the ensemble here? Okay, here I'm going to take some more dynamic liberties, be more soloistic. Whereas here, I want to show both the soloist and the orchestra that I'm just sort of blending, sitting back into the texture.
Figure out what is weirdest about the excerpt, and you attack that first.
I'm a big fan of attacking my weaknesses, whether it's in an excerpt or just my playing in general. Very easy to be like, well, I'm not very good at this, so we sort of ignore those things. I mean, I'm an acceptable tambourine player, but I'd really love to have a better tambourine roll. So, like, that's what I'm working on. I was uncomfortable playing fast on xylophone. So one summer, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm fixing this. Play scales and arpeggios and all sorts of exercises, but my sole focus was being fast. After the end of that summer, I was way more comfortable just literally with the mallets moving faster. Is a way better way of looking at it than, I'll get around to it eventually.
I feel like there's no obstacle that's too big to overcome, that you can't just overcome it in the summer with a full summer of dedicated attention.
One of the big transitions from being a student to a professional is you can't walk into the Met and be like, hey, I'm sort of breaking down my timpani playing, so if it doesn't sound good today, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I always encourage my students, let's break this down and like get in the weeds and fix stuff.
What are I definitely have to do this and this before it's ready for performance? Is there like a process that everything has to go through?
With Escapades, I want to be comfortable with this 2 weeks before the first rehearsal, because that way it has a chance to sit in my hands. 2 weeks out, I want to start playing it for people, getting advice. I can make subtle changes. So that means 2 weeks before that point, I want to be like at 80% tempo, but musically I want to sort of be solid. So I essentially just make mini goals and work backwards to the point of where I am now. I think the hardest day learning something is the first day, because all the work is ahead of you. Even the second day, at least you've looked at it. The first day, like, everything is new, 100% of the work is in front of you. And say, you know what, on the first day, I don't have to make a ton of progress, because I know I'll make a little bit more progress tomorrow. That helps me mentally, because sometimes it's really frustrating when you're in the practice room and you feel like you got nothing done. No, I got like 0.05% of it done, and if I keep getting 0.05% of it done, eventually I'll get to 100%.
You happen to just release a giant collection of every excerpt ever.
Pretty much.
Is that about right?
The first volume is Snare Drum. It came out on April 3rd. Every excerpt has a performance video, so if all you're looking to do is hear and see what the excerpt sounds like, there's no talking, it's just boom, I'm playing it. Those are obviously short videos, and then every excerpt also has a sort of a mini lesson tutorial video where I talk about the decision-making process I went through of how I play every excerpt. It's been a really cool project to work on. Really, the motivation behind it was I really wish I had this when I was a student. I really hope today's students use it as a resource and can give me feedback.
Students now are not held back by their geography. They're not held back by their resources necessarily. All the information that will go into your development online or through teachers around you. What really holds you back now is your work ethic. Students who used to do well, who grew up in areas with great orchestras, who had a lot of access, are up against the rest of the world, who now you can grow up in the middle of, rural wherever.
I'm a big fan of working smart because the example I always use with my students is I have a door to my practice room and I shut the door and I push really hard on the door and I say like, look, I'm working really hard here, but guess what? The door's not opening. And it's a silly example, but if I just turn the handle and push, the door will open. It's not enough just to work hard. You sort of have to work smart. You have to be really smart with your time. Because guess what? Everybody works hard now.
Yeah.
Like no one's winning a job and is practicing like 2 hours a day. Smart practice is really essential.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's just been fun.
Yes, it was awesome.
Have a good concert tonight.
Thank you so much to Will for being on the show. If you haven't gotten my audition cheat sheet yet, you can go to robknopper.com/audition cheat sheet. If you have questions for Will, let me know in the comments. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.